Hi, my name is Jim Ryan, and I'm the new instructional designer here at EWU. My job here is to take a look at the programs, courses, and people from a different point of view, to see how all these Lego pieces fit, and to imagine how I can help put them together differently to make something new and amazing. Welcome to the Play to Learn podcast. Today, I'm meeting with Nigel Davies, a fun and adventurous geology instructor at EWU who specializes in Spokane regional geology, glaciers, and landscapes. Nigel also incorporates some fascinating active learning activities into his classes. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Well, today I'm here with Nigel Davies. And Nigel, so nice to meet you for the third or second?
Third time.
Third time.
Third time, yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
So we originally connected because I was informed that you are big on active learning and gamification within your courses. But before we jump into that, can you tell me just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Nigel Davies. I have been here at Eastern for 14 years. I do a variety of things on campus, from managing our geoscience labs to providing guidance for all of our teaching assistants in our introductory courses. And I also teach a couple of introductory courses, as well as stand in the summer to teach our capstone, or help teach our capstone course, our field camp class here in geoscience. And there's a variety of other things because, we're a small department. We got to do lots of things with the people you have. So marketing and engagement and outreach are all part of my purview as well.
That's interesting. So what do you do as far as marketing and outreach?
Well, marketing and outreach, I have been running until it went south, the Twitter account, but dealing with outreach, making sure that the Geoscience Club has the tools and things they need to go out to K through 12 classrooms, engaging with local land organizations like INLC, friends groups, giving them talks in the field about the local geology, as well as going myself to K through 12 classrooms to explain geoscience and concepts to local Spokane County students.
That's fantastic. So what originally got you interested in the geosciences?
So I started as an undergrad wanting to be a chemistry major, and my mother signed me up for some kind of environmental science sustainability. And sustainability was not a hot topic back in 1999, so I'm dating myself there. But yeah, I ended up working with an advisor who was a geologist in this environmental science sustainability program, and he turned me on to the geology of Mars, and I worked on Mars for a little bit. I mean, I ended up going and working in California, but the real thing that turned me into a geologist was a trip to the West. I grew up on the East Coast, in Connecticut, and never really thought too much about the surrounding rock other than things to play around on. But by the time I made it to St. Louis and then eventually out to Death Valley, California as a freshman on a spring break trip, that's when I was like, wow, this stuff is awesome. It is truly amazing out in all of the West exposure. So I was sold on geology then and have continued to be passionate ever since. So 2000, right around this time, like spring break 2000, that's 25 years ago now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So when you're studying geology, you're studying fundamentally the history of our world. What kind of stories stand out to you in the telling of that story?
Yeah, good storytelling is part of, I think, great teaching. I enjoy the history of how people and the evolution of thought that went into getting us to present knowledge and hopefully into future knowledge. The iterative components of building on the shoulders and standing on the shoulders of giants, as they say in the world. But dealing with teaching geology and teaching the time component, the thing I like to tell students is that geoscience and geology is a 4D science, right? We like to think about things on the surface of the earth. We like to think about things into the third dimension, into the interior of the earth. And then we like to think about things through time. And that's that key ingredient that makes geoscience so special, is that it's a 4D science. Sometimes I joke with students and I say, we're playing 4D Tetris. I don't know if they even know what Tetris is these days, but yeah, go from there.
That's great. Yeah, I too had a Game Boy back in the day. So geology also involves a lot of chemistry in it. So can you kind of explain that portion of it to people who aren't very familiar with this subject?
So all sciences have crossover between them. And one of the things that's great about the geosciences is that there are fields of geomicrobiology. There are fields in geophysics. There are fields in geochemistry. All right. And all we're doing is we're taking the other sciences and applying those processes to the earth. So inherently, the chemical processes that are taking place, not necessarily to make PVC, but in this case, we're thinking about how does lead migrate through soils? How does it come out of rock? How does it integrate into a water system? We're thinking about the holistic transport of an element through the geologic medium. And it's important that chemistry is all around us. It's key and vital to our human habitation and our built infrastructure. So the phone that's recording this podcast has in it 12% copper, and we need to know where that element is held in the rock record, in the mineralogical record. And these are the things that I think students struggle with because they just have had things delivered to them. Just like you don't really know where your trash goes, you don't know where the electricity comes when you turn on the light switch. And breaking down and understanding those processes and proving the importance of the chemistry behind them, the physics behind them, and as much as I sometimes hate to think about it, the biology, because I'm not a very good biologist, I won't even put myself in the world of biology very often. Those are all part and parcel to being a good geoscientist.
All right, so you're talking about cross-profession chemistry, science, and geology. Let me throw a curveball at you. What about art and English and history?
So we did a great project a while back. For the many of you who are here on Eastern's campus in Cheney, you know that the science building has had its fair share of remodeling action. And when we were temporarily knocking out a new exit that went through the geology and the geosciences old office, it was a shell of a space, and we were able to collaborate with the art department to make a wonderful mural project that allowed science and scientific exploration to swim through the walls of this very tight exit space that often ponded students as they were pinched out of one exit door to appreciate the interactions that art, writing, and other things can have on the sciences that they may have just learned or were coming into the building to learn. I'm also a big fan of literature. So one of my things I always like to incorporate into my class is the story of Frankenstein and how Mary Shelley's timeline for writing Frankenstein links up beautifully with the year without summer, which is driven by a volcanic eruption. And so we get to see in the literary record the impact of geologic happenings in that world. There's lots of wonderful crossovers. Art history, as much as I naysayed it when I was an undergrad, I drop a little art history into my lectures as well.
I'm a big fan of things like Lapidary too. And so some of the artists that I follow on like Instagram, what they'll do is they'll take a base rock or like a geode or something like that, and then they'll use a piece of glass that they've ground down and they'll epoxy them together with clear epoxy and then make them look like one solid piece, but it's two clearly different things. It's an actual rock underneath, and on top is this beautiful piece of colored glass that mixes with it. I can't remember the name of the artist, but there's reasons that they choose to do the things they do, and a lot of it does involve the science behind the mineral.
It sounds like a mixed metaphor for how the world works.
Yeah,
really, right? You know, you got some real rock and some anthropogenic rock lapped onto each other. When you're out on a road, you've got an outcrop on the side of the road and the urbanite or the concrenite or whatever bitumen cement filled material that is part of the urban landscape draped on top. So only appropriate that artists mimic the natural environment or the non-natural environment, maybe.
And the unintentional, intentional metaphors.
Exactly.
So I guess I should go back to the beginning when I originally brought up the point that you'd been already integrating some form of gamification and active learning into your classrooms. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I think making sure that the classroom is not stale is really important. Gone from video projects in my intro classes to observational small prompts that originally started as Twitter prompts. And of course, we went somewhere else with that. And then now we're into AI and AI art. So I have things that students are doing quick little 5-10 minute exercises to improve their observational capacity, but are part of the modern era of what can I learn beyond the geosciences. And sometimes they balk. They haven't said, I had no knowledge of how to do video editing, and here I am doing video editing. And I remind students that, you're not, even though we're asking you to do this, I'm not going to grade you on your video editing. I'm going to grade you and inspire you on your observational capacity and how you storytell. One of the other things I've done in the classroom is to ensure that some of the in-class assignments they do have like fun game outcomes with prizes for being the best at, in one case, I have a mining project that allows students to mine blueberry muffins for value. And we equate the blueberries inside of the muffins to copper deposits, and the concentrations of the materials that they're able to recover correspond actually really nicely to, high grade ore deposits. And you get certain values for different materials. You have penalties for breaking down your environment because we know that you're going to have to spend money to put it back together. And so there's a financial value to how you operated to extract minerals that we might need. And that has been really intense. It takes time. It takes a lot of pre-planning, but once the pre-planning is done, once the macro in the Excel is done, it's very, very smooth and accomplishable in a 50-minute class. And the students always love that. That's one of the favorite exercises that goes on, is the muffin mining. And I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, the one that came up with this, but I found through CERC, which is through the Carleton College in Minnesota, with these wonderful geoscience engaged activities, and then tinker and tailor with it so that it works best in your setting, right? You can use pieces of what has already been done. So not to reinvent the wheel, but to maybe put a bit more air in the tire and ensure that the rolling resistance is not super high.
So I love that experiment that you were telling me about, and I'd probably just mash the muffin and yank out the blueberries because I'm not very strategic. But the part of it where you're making them problem solve, come up with a well thought out strategy beforehand, and then test that to see if it works. I think that's fantastic.
And one of the things that I always make them, the actual way that they get credit for the assignment that day, is to write down their thoughts on what they would have done differently and how they would have approached the problem in a slightly different manner. So the last thing I want to do is to have people, you don't want to give them too much beforehand, but the retrospective on how best to approach a project can be really, really nice. And so that's the deliverable for the day. The deliverable is definitely not a smushed muffin.
A mostly intact muffin with all the blueberries and the good bits in another pile. Yeah. So are you constantly looking up other sources that you can use like that?
Yeah. I like to go to that CERC website from time to time. I love seeing things like visual demos on different platforms. So I have a variety of people that I engage with in a social media setting, which of course used to be Twitter, but I find my way through other things these days. But yeah, it's hard to find the ones that are smooth and easy to integrate. But once you find them, they are really engaging for the students, where they see that you put that extra effort in and that there's a thoughtful outcome to how that game, that demo, the vision had been integrated into the classwork.
So students come into this geosciences program, and what are they looking for when they come out?
I'm always looking for a job.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, everybody's looking for a job, but what industries are in demand for these skills right now?
So anytime you see a crane, anytime you see a building project, there is a geologist or a geotech involved in making sure that the concrete is set, making sure that the road surface is set. So you're probably looking at 4 to 5 geologists on a building site that you didn't even think that you needed a geologist for. So that was part of the story. Humans are really good at spilling stuff. You look at my office desk right now and like there's spilled coffee all over it. I'm really good at spilling coffee. I drink a lot of it. I spill a lot of it. And turns out that humans are the same way, like just in general. So all those things that we transport around to make our life easier oftentimes get spilled. And once they're spilled, they enter into the environment and we need to clean them up. And we need to know where they're going and what concentrations they are and how best to get them back out of the environment. So we care about clean water. We care about clean air in the United States and maybe in other places as well. And so we work hard to resolve that. And then, of course, we need those natural resources. So we need people to figure out where they are and how best to extract them, how not to pollute the environment when they're doing so. And then the other places that students end up are extracting natural minerals and natural resources in the critical minerals world, right? So every time you drive by a wind turbine, remember they're turbines, not mills. Nobody's grinding any flour here. There's 200 pounds of neodymium in the magnets inside one of those, and that's got to come from somewhere. And so people are becoming a little bit more aware about the sourcing of the things that make our environment hum, which is great. But then now you realize you need a geologist. But one of the things that's great about geoscience is that it's an application of science. And so we have students that got onto very different things like running sustainability offices, working in medical labs, working in crime labs, those types of things. The application of the science can go a broad way into finding jobs that can even be in like land conservation, right? And knowing that local land conservatories are interested in the geology underfoot, and that might be the kind of work that is really rewarding to some students that leave. So there's a variety of pathways that they can get in and get out to make an impact on the local region. We even have mining in the local region, right? Which is kind of fun. Thankfully, no fossil fuel development, but allows them the opportunity to go to a variety of things and things that this is the thing is that they weren't thinking of, right? We have beautiful cartography that gets done here, and everybody needs a map, right? Everybody needs a map. You want to know who's paid your taxes. You go on to Scout, the Spokane County Tax Assessor's website. The map is spectacular, and it's got all the integrated information, and that came from a student who had previously been an undergrad here in geography, and we're now integrated geology and geography together in the world of geoscience. So
That's fantastic. There's so much here, and there's so many creative ways that students can go. And just from those jobs you were telling me about, I can think of half a dozen other fun exercises that students could be participating in to simulate that within the classroom. And I'm really just excited to see where things get to go from here.
Absolutely. We need more geologists. We need more people to deal with the problems we created. And this is the place to do it. The topics that we have students working on research projects on are hyper local, whether it's fires down in Malden, water contamination on the West Plains, mapping out accessibility, water quality in waterways across the Spokane County. These are all things that students could work on as research associates here at Eastern.
That's super exciting. Well, Nigel, thanks again for taking the time to see me. I'm sure we're going to be hanging out more and doing some more fun things, and I can't wait to be working together more with you.
Yeah, Jim, this is great. I appreciate it. And thanks for making the trek up to the glorious ISC. Everyone should come check out the displays. We're working on those. That's also part of my paradigm.
They're super cool displays too. I love all the different types of rocks you've got.
We can do better. We can do better. As I like to say, we always can do better. So, well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.